what are some properties that aren't at least either board games or at least modern board games, recent board games that we really want to see come out?
Yeah.
So we made a list. I don't know about for you, but I made sure that I tried to make them so there weren't things that came out if they had a board game, they weren't recent, or I'm not counting Monopolies or Clues, that are just quick reskins.
Right, yeah. There are a couple things on my list that do have iterations of board games, but I'll detail exactly what that means and why I included them still. Sure. I mean, I'll say I could have easily made a top 50 for this list.
Oh, of course.
Like, these 10 that I say they're so...
And I bet someone could say something in the comments and be like, actually, yeah, that'd be on my list.
I turned around and looked at something on the set and saw something I thought should be on my list just before we started recording.
I'm really curious now what it was.
I'll tell you later, but it was, so I'm of the belief that most properties could be made a board game.
I mean,
so this is,
with enough tweaking, I definitely agree with that.
So if we'll do a part 2 maybe, if people want to hear more. And I also think if you say something that's on the other person's list, you should just jump in and say
absolutely.
Because I feel like
I would be shocked. I think there's only two things on my list that I think could be on yours.
All right, well, shock me. Give me your number 10.
Actually, no, 3. This is my number 10.
Give them your number 10.
My number 10 is Hannibal. And I think it'd be a fun trader game, but I would think it'd require really something to make it stand up from Resistance or something like that, because I think the show is that kind of good. Almost, I think everyone should know who the traitor is, but you have to gather evidence.
Specifically, you're referring to the TV show more so than the book or the movie.
Yes, I'm referring to the TV show. I should say that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think the other idea I came up with would be better, and I guess this sort of counts as be a dinner mystery dinner sort
murder
of
mystery dinner party theme.
Because I
party?
mean, come on, Hannibal, the cooking of this stuff, but
that's a great one. I'm a huge Hannibal fan.
The reason why it's my number 10 is because if you watch the show, I just feel the show does such an amazing job compared to everything else with the characters, especially Hannibal, of how he really is a bad guy, but like honestly, I really do feel that actual charm coming from him.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why it can't be a simple just reskin of, I'm just blanking
Resistance?
on Resistance or something. I really want to have that. You take that extra initiative to make that traitor a reasonable, interesting thing somehow.
Yeah. I can see that. More of a negotiation element maybe.
Something, that's why it's my number 10. It's something that requires, I think, a really good mechanic to push it through.
Do you want to do your...
Was that not on your list? Or
it's not on my list. No, yeah. I'll let you know. Don't worry.
Because that one was possible because I know you're the one who turned me on to the show.
Yeah, great choice. Do you want to do your number 9 now? Are we doing the 2 and 2 thing, or how does that work?
No, do your because this isn't really as big of a deal, I feel.
Okay, I'm with you. All right. Oh, you know what? I should bring it up first. All right, I have a few curveballs in here, and my number 10 is maybe the curviest of the balls.
I think my 9 would be my curveball. But.
That's the title of this episode. My number 10 is, my voice just cracked, The Odyssey. The Homer-written epic tale of the Odyssey by the bard himself. This is the essential, the hero's journey, right?
No, I think that makes sense because while we've seen Odysseus appear in a game, and maybe there've been one or I can't think off the top of my head.
There are plenty of Greek mythology-based games.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that there are any really based on specifically this tale. And the way I thought I kind of saw it playing out is really I almost want to say possibly as a solo experience because I don't know how other players, I mean, you could be like people on Odysseus's crew, I guess, on his ship or whatever, maybe that could work. But I feel like something with a storytelling element to it, because that's the spirit of the story.
Well, it might be really cool.
Obviously,
so it's almost like an RPG, but the DM is Odysseus. Mm-hmm. And the other players are, and so he might have to decide to kill them off. Then also,
definitely
so becomes
maybe something along the lines of maybe a Tales of the Arabian Nights esque game.
No, I think that could be really good.
So that's my number 10.
All right. Now this is my number 9. It's a weird one, but I think it could work. It's actually based on the TV show Psych.
Okay. I've never watched the show.
Yeah,
so
it's a crime procedural show, but much more comedy oriented. It's a guy who pretty much pretends to be a psychic, but he just has really good observation skills. And the reason I think this would make a really fun sort of party deducing game, because in the show a lot of times there's a lot of jokes in there. Like he'll always like introduce his partner as like a silly nickname or something. And whenever he gets a hint and like tries to tell everyone, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm sensing something." You always hand to the temple. So I think you could have this sort of fun deducing party game to have together and be like, "Oh wait, I'm getting something."
So
No.
maybe like a bluffing game.
Yeah, like I think you could have like this really sort of this fun observation, and it actually is. The show ended. Oh, I can't remember a while ago, but they're getting a movie this winter, which I'm really shocked.
Okay.
Also, there have to be a pineapple included because every episode had a pineapple.
I'm thinking, would it be cool? Would it make sense if it was like the player has a card and maybe the person who's the psychic either looks at it or doesn't, and either they're guessing what it is or they know what it is.
Right.
The person that's trying
Like
to
I just
figure
feel
out.
like the whole point would be not as much for focusing on the win-lose, but almost just to get that silly aspect from the show.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Psych. All right. My number 9. This one was a tough one because I wanted to get something from Miyazaki in there.
Oh my God, I didn't think about that.
And I kind of was I was struggling to come up with which.
See,
movie.
this is what's gonna happen. I feel like.
Yeah, which movie would make the best game? The one I landed on was Totoro, and the way I was thinking of it was it would be less of a direct adaptation of the film and more like players, maybe you're trying to compete to like grow a garden or something, or because that's so much the theme of the movie.
That sounds adorable.
And like maybe the Totoro comes by once in a while in the cat bus, and you use them to like help you build and grow and stuff like that.
I like that.
I wanted to find something for Spirited Away. I was like a bathhouse tycoon simulator.
No. It's gonna be like one of those, like the game like with the pie that hits you in the face that you go around. It's that, but with no face, like giving him food until he like goes crazy.
Oh, okay, good call. So there's a bonus one. So that was my number 9. Was My Neighbor Totoro.
Nice. I like that a lot because I think at the very least that would just be a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently my thing decided to go to the clock. My number 8 is a clock. All right. My number 8 is one I'm sure you could have guessed on mine, is the Super Sentai and Power Rangers series. And this, I think, obviously should be a deck building game. And like many others, I think one of the ways it would work that would be really fun would be like you can do sets would be of the teams. And just like, how Legendary, like there's the Avengers group in the symbol, like they would have their team symbol, but they could also be like for every Red Ranger you play. That way it makes sense if you want to mix and match and make some weird ones. And I just think because there's been, I think 40 at this point teams in the Sentai-verse, Power Rangers, where I think we're a little behind. I think that would be just a lot of fun and just all these weird different cards. And because honestly, if you actually watch the Sentai series, some of them are like actual joke series. Like they're literally meant to be just jokes. You can make some really weird combinations and stuff.
No, that seems like a perfect fit for it. I mean, I know we just want it to be Legendary, probably.
Well, I mean, I think
it could have its own.
It could have its own just because it has so much. That's why.
Yeah, no, there's a ton. Yeah, it's interesting. The deck building isn't the first place I would go, but it does make a lot of sense.
It's just I think because a deck building easily fits, like whether it's DC or Legendary, just when you have 40
Right.
40 teams and each one has at least 3 to 5,
And the combat thing, it makes sense. My number 8 is another one that I sort of struggled with because I don't know what type of game it should be. I just know it should exist.
No.
Is The Matrix. It just seems, it's such a huge sci-fi property and one of my favorites. And I feel like there are
good reason.
Yeah, there are so many ways you could tackle it because you have the Animatrix, you have some comics.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, I could see either as an RPG. I mean, that's the easy one. I feel. It could be like almost Two Rooms and a Boom almost, but it's like someone's Agent Smith infecting people. You can go a lot of different places.
There's a lot. The one thing I was thinking would be cool is if someone is like the operator on the outside and someone else is in the Matrix and there's some kind of an interplay, or there's like phases where you're going in and out of the Matrix. You could be like
2 boards.
combat.
Like one is actually in the Matrix, one's the outside world, and that person's like the one. It could be like 1v all, and that person like is slowly moving robots in the real world while also controlling the agent. The other. Yeah. I could totally.
You could do some cool stuff. Get on that.
All right.
Next.
My next one. This one's sort of like I'm not sure exactly how the game would work, but I think this mechanic is just they fit each other. Is Fire Emblem, the series, and I think it should be a legacy game. Because when I think of Fire Emblem, I think of how you could lose units forever.
Yeah.
And I just feel like fits the legacy game perfectly.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And I just think that, and I've been playing the Fire Emblem app, and I actually really like it, even though mechanically it is a free-to-play gacha, which that has its own issues. But in terms of just seeing all the heroes together, and we know we're getting the Fire Emblem Warriors game coming up, I just think a legacy game somehow where you have to actually tear up, so you're like, oh god, I'm going to actually tear up that Marth card. And just that terror.
No, that seems perfect. That's really brilliant. I mean, Fire Emblem is a board game already in digital form, but yeah, as a legacy game, it makes too much sense. They definitely should do that. That's a good call. This is my number 7 now. Is The Shining. I guess you could say the book, but or the movie, I guess. And I was another one where I wanted to do a Stephen King one, and he has so many that you could probably adapt. But I went with The Shining. My thoughts were, first of all, you have that hotel, which I feel like is such a great layout for a board game, sort of, or it could even be like maybe a Mansion's Betrayal type thing. You could easily work in a reason why those rooms would be shifting in some way.
The elevator shoots out blood. I think rooms changing and disappearing isn't far-fetched.
Exactly, and what I was kind of thinking is maybe it's like a 1v-all where one person is Jack going crazy, and maybe the other, and maybe then you have someone could be Shelley Duvall, the kid, and maybe the groundskeeper who comes back. That could be an outside element of the game. Some kind of a
hell, it doesn't have to be in this act. Maybe it could just be like the story, but another family goes in or something.
Yes.
That way you don't feel nearly as attached somehow.
That would definitely be also a good one, I think, and makes sense because the movie is already kind of a loose adaptation. This could be another set in that world, sort of. So that was all
right. My next one is Gundam. And I think it should be like either a miniatures or card war game. I mean, my favorite series of the Gundam isn't the G Gundam or the Wing, and yes, I will fight on that. But the Wing is more closely related to this. G Gundam really is the weird one out. But is the central universe where it's actually the war. And honestly, my favorite ones isn't the main ones. It's these spin-offs where it's like the story of like this small platoon on Earth or something, or even this kid. It's like there's only 2 suits and they're barely in it, but it's this kid talking with a Xeon pilot who's spying in a colony. Like, it's really interesting. But what I like is because they have all these mechs, all these units, and I just want to see them on this cool artwork or miniatures and moving around, and like you can build your team and fight each other. It just seems like it has the
It seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
yeah, you've clearly got the groundwork laid out.
And this is one that there is a card game, I think, before, but I'm pretty sure it's only in Japan, and and just we could do better.
I'm with you. I always wanted to build a Gundam model.
Oh, and that's the other thing. The miniatures, I feel like you already got the building market there.
My number 6 is one that we have talked about together in real life, and has recently enjoyed a revival, Samurai Jack.
That's my number 5. Oh, man.
All right, we nailed
it. Love it.
See, we shared one there. So
and close, too. I'm really...
I know one of my ideas was it would be like a head-to-head duel game where
absolutely.
Jack v. Aku.
I was thinking a asymmetrical game, obviously. Yeah. But I think the way I saw it was you'd be fighting for things, and like Descent, you know how Descent, depending on who wins a certain scenario, it's either this item becomes good or bad? It'd have that element. It wouldn't follow the story exactly, but it'd be like, if you can capture this, like, for example, I'm blanking her name.
Ashi?
Like, who would win maybe this point, like, gets control of her, whether she's her demon form or her good form, like, that kind of stuff. But I don't think it'd be the same, so the way Jack works would be different the way,
Aku?
Like, almost like, then it could also work like a Risk. I just realized the Star Wars Risk game.
Where you have multiple different like fronts and different things going on.
Just now.
I was thinking like maybe even like a Netrunner sort of.
No. But that's the asymmetrical. Like, even though they have decks, they're actually very.
But I definitely feel like a head-to-head dueling card game is the perfect environment.
No
for
question. I mean, it's got to be 1v1. I don't think you can do.
Yeah, you could try to do like, someone's the Scotsman or something.
No,
but it comes down to those 2 characters.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah. So. Samurai Jack, that would be an awesome
I'm really glad. So do you actually want to do your next one since my 5 was that?
Yeah, so I'll do my number 5. My number 5 is I wanted to do a Quentin Tarantino thing. I thought I was going to do Reservoir Dogs, but then I was like, well, we sort of have, like, we have Bang and Cash and Guns. It sort of is a thing already. So I said The Hateful Eight.
Ooh.
And basically, similar to what you said.
Does one person sit underneath the table until you're...
Yeah. What was the first one that you said?
The Hannibal trailer?
Yeah, like Hannibal. I think you got to go some kind of a sort of hidden role-esque, resistance-esque mystery deduction game where people have hidden agendas and you're trying to figure out who's doing what, and just that atmosphere. And maybe even there is a board because
cursing is mandatory.
There's something about that atmosphere of being in that cabin and surrounded by snow that's the perfect setting for a game, I think.
I can definitely feel that. I mean, because a board game is being...
Yeah. And maybe there's murder.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. That's a good one. My number 4 is Gravity Falls. And I think this should be a Sherlock Holmes or Time Story thing. If you haven't watched the series, I really suggest you do. I think it's great. And one of the reasons, and why it also translates into a board game really well, if you watch it, those guys do amazing puzzles and codes and stuff in there. It's nuts. Like, it's just asking for like a Sherlock Holmes, like looking at it and just seeing like this amazing cipher you have to solve out and just find this weird story. Maybe the main villain returns, I don't know. I think it'd be so cool, and it was such a short-lived series, and for a good reason. It ended on its terms, which is one of the most bittersweet things you can feel.
I have yet to watch any of it,
except for that one with Weird Al.
Oh, that's right, the D&D-esque one, which I enjoyed. So yeah, I can't comment, but. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, if you watch it, there's so many things you wouldn't. If you look online, there's all these videos like, "What if this is a symbol for this?" Like when the show was going on, and this translates to this. So I just feel like it would fit so well in that kind of everyone working together trying to solve.
That just made me think of another good one. Anyway,
I'm sure we have a bunch.
All right, my number 4 is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and. I do think there's a lot of things, you could do. There are a bunch of like Discworld board games. I think you could do some funny stuff with that. But I was thinking a role-playing game or another storytelling kind of game, or even maybe some kind of a party game, because humor has to be obviously a big element of it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I feel like an RPG would be good, because I think there is a funny and fun universe in there, and to have an RPG where where it's more absurdist and like the rules could be broken a lot more, I think would be a really fun thing to do. And there was a text adventure, like maybe I didn't look it up, maybe it seems like, because it's been around since the 70s, it seems like there would have been a Hitchhiker's game of some kind at some point, but I don't know if it exists or not, but a modern version.
All right. So
next for you.
My number 3 is probably the most obvious of mine.
Okay.
It has had iterations of board games in the past, but they're all like, I would say like my Jurassic Park 3 game kind of deal, or Hasbro Monopoly, is, probably because it's owned by them, Transformers. Now this I could see going a lot of different ways, just because there's so many different versions. There's the movie version, there's the original G1 version, there's the different TV shows, there's the comic books. There's so many different versions, just Optimus Prime alone, So, like, you could do a deck builder, maybe a miniatures game where there's all the different robots, because that makes sense since this is, let's face it, Transformers was made to sell toys. So you almost want to have that miniatures thing going on.
Yeah.
But, like, I just want something good for it,
Are there, Transformers isn't part of, like, HeroClix, or is it?
I'm sure it is. What isn't part of HeroClix?
I guess you're right. But
I don't want something in packs. I'm going to say this. None of my list is TCG, because I'm just not a fan of that. I understand. And yes, I did bring up how I'm also playing that Fire Emblem game that is in essence that, but I want,
I'm with you, Transformers for sure. It's definitely, it deserves it at this point. And I think that I can't, deck building or miniatures battle.
I mean, it's definitely the one out of all of my lists I do think would make more sense in Legendary if we were to bring it up. But I do think because there's so much, it could deserve its own.
My number 3 is also one that has existing board games, some very recent, but it doesn't have what I want.
Okay, I'm interested.
And so it is Harry Potter.
Okay, no, you know what? That's it. And I actually want to, I'll go into that, but I do want to bring up the recent game.
Yeah, well, let's start there. There is the deck building game that just came out recently from USAopoly, which I have played and is fine as a deck building game. But what I really want is the full scale, like Fantasy Flight style, very thematic, Hogwarts simulating battles with missions and a campaign.
Well, actually, yeah, here are my two things.
Upgrades, you're playing as different class members. That's what I want.
One, I actually think they should make one that's like, you go through all 7 years of school. Two, and this has to do with the recent game, is I really, and I'll admit this, I put 2 games on here who could fall into this strategy, and it's the problem with it. I have a problem with live action adaptations into board games, because I feel like when they take a picture and put it in, 9 times out of 10 it feels lazy.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't, you're taking the picture just for the sake to have a picture of that character. Like you can't, like artwork, you can make a new piece that would fit whatever the title of the card is or something. Or because you've drawn Superman so many times, you could probably find a piece of artwork that fits it. I think it's so much harder for when you do live. That's why I really don't like it when you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is what the Harry Potter deck building game does, and I feel like there's so many great illustrations in the Harry Potter books.
Oh, I love the covers.
I know like every region has different covers, but I feel like you could do a lot with that style, and it just seems like it deserves more games. You could even do like, there could be like a Quidditch game. There's a lot of different things you could do.
I feel like I would want that to be a dexterity game of like playing it.
Yeah, that could be cool. But I really want the all-encompassing, like the Imperial Assault of Harry Potter games. You know, that like covers it all. So that's
I completely understand. Yeah. All right. So my number 2 is Ghost in the Shell. Now I actually haven't seen the movie. I actually am though a big fan of both the manga and the TV series. So I feel this would work amazingly either as Descent or like I'm totally blanking on Spectre Ops.
Spec Ops.
Ops.
No, you were right. Spectre Ops.
Yeah, I was thinking Spec Ops, and I'm like, no, wait, that's wrong. I'm usually wrong.
I'm so used to correcting you. I said the wrong one.
And that's sort of like the 1v-all style, and just because they're sort of detective with hackers, it'd be really cool that the one can choose in the beginning whether he's the puppet man or whether he's laughing. You know, like choosing one of the main villains, and they have different abilities. And I just think it would be a lot of fun choosing, because there's a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing I don't have a lot of experience with, but it is an awesome aesthetic and a really cool.
I mean, it's the Android Netrunner /
universe.
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. Yeah, love all that stuff. All right, so my number 2 is one that it definitely could have been on your list. I know you also want it.
No, I will say that there are plenty of things on my list. Like I will say one that's not on my list is Splatoon. It almost made it, but
let's not get into what's not on our list right now. Is Locke Key, which we've talked about many times before.
Yeah.
About this. So this is the comic book series by Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, and there is a Locke and Key card game from Cryptozoic.
It does not do it justice.
It really is just basically a pasted on theme. Again, what I want is the Mansions of Madness-esque. At least in look and feel, exploring this. The thing that's really cool about Locke and Key, if you don't know, they have there's many different keys, and each one has this cool ability. Mm-hmm. So they could, like, maybe it opens a door to anywhere, or it opens somebody's head, and you can look inside their brain. And so the idea of being able to go throughout a mansion, try to find those keys.
Well, not only that, we know, like, you see one story of these kids, of their horrific journey through their life there. Mm-hmm. But we know, and they talk about how they see other people who've lived in the house and how they've been able to deal with the keys. And I just feel that'd be perfect to have different missions in different times. Like, one of them could be the mansion, like, with them, or one could be when they're during the Civil War or something. You could do so much. I absolutely agree. I can't believe I forgot Locke and Key.
The other thing that I definitely think is that I would want it to be fully cooperative, and there's sort of these like dark shadow forces, and I think it should be a game-controlled component, I think.
Oh, that actually reminds me, with my Ghost in the Shell, I'm like, that also, because it's Cyberpunk, like, an app. You know,
oh yeah, apps are always good for all games. All right, your number uno.
My number 1.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what it is.
What is it? Well, I'm curious.
Unless you're not, the only reason you wouldn't put it is because there are games that exist already.
It is not that.
Okay, so then I don't know what it is.
My number 1 is Destiny.
Okay.
The reason behind this is if you haven't played the game Destiny before, it's a first-person shooter. And honestly, their game at the beginning, didn't do that well in the story. But the difference is there's something called the Grimoire cards. It was like on an app, which this bothered me a bit, that you had to go through an app, not through the game, to find this background information, was amazing. They had written all this beautiful lore. I mean, you can watch all these YouTubers who have made videos just on like this exotic weapon. Like, it's not just a good weapon. It has a story about how the person's father died and he picked up the weapon to duel and kill the murderer. Like, it's all this great stuff. And I just feel like to bring it into a game might be where you take advantage of that and maybe go back to some of those battles, or maybe even make an RPG and you can, just like in the game, but build your class in more interesting ways. I just feel that lore is just sitting there on a shelf. And that's why it's my number one.
Waiting to be plucked. And so why didn't you choose Godzilla?
Well, that was one of the things. Was one, it had a recent game and I was just like, yeah. And two, remember when I mentioned Cowboy Bebop? I'm like, I almost just want it, even though they have their version of it, like
King of Tokyo.
King of Tokyo Rampage. Like, I'm like, it's almost like kaiju. I was thinking as like an honorary would be Evangelion, Pacific Rim, Godzilla, but not as a game, but almost just as bonus characters in them, like somehow. Like,
Got it. All right, fair. So Destiny.
Yes, I think, and because I think they have, and that's why, compared to all the rest, they have the stuff they haven't been utilizing yet, and that's why it's my number one. Sort of a funny reason.
Yeah, they could do a Halo game. I don't know. Okay, my number one, I also went with a video game. I had to pick something from Nintendo because they're my favorite company. It was hard narrowing down which one I thought would be the best pick, but I finally landed on the one that I was hesitant to say because I want to design this game. I don't want anyone else to do it before I can. Is Pikmin. Of all their games, I mean, it is an RTS basically, and it seems like a natural fit to a board game for me.
No, this is one we've actually been talking about for a while. I know you've always been like, oh, if I made a game like this,
it seems like
I'm not giving any hints. Yeah. This is your.
Well, it would be a great. I see it as a competitive strategy game. There could be cooperative modes possibly, but with Pikmin there's a built-in time limit. You have multiple days to get parts back. So I would love to see kind of a randomized map maybe where you have to compete to get to certain spaceship parts first, or fruits, or whatever you're looking for. And there with that built-in time limit, you could have a longer game, a shorter game.
Well, not only that, what could be really interesting is with the enemies, you can maybe make it so you might be forced to work together at some time, so you could be like, look, I won't go for that piece if you help me take out this bulb orb.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do with, you have all these tiny Pikmin, and you have tokens to represent them maybe, and you like sacrifice them to clear things. I feel like that could be a really cool strategic element.
And of course, because the different colors have different abilities, you can make some fun, weird tiles there. Be like, you need blue to cross this tile or something.
So that was my one. The one I looked behind and saw that Luigi's Mansion figure. I thought that would also be a cool game. There's so many Nintendo properties.
No, I mean, honestly, like I said Splatoon, but to make the list, but that's sort of a fun territory control thing. But there are a lot of things that could be, I mean, you said in the beginning, but these are just our top ones. Like, honestly, like I said, my number 1 and 2 are because I love their worlds so much. And as a theme-heavy guy, those are the worlds I just want to dive into.
Yeah, and a lot of mine also were like, they finally made games of them like Buffy and Firefly I couldn't do. Or
well, no, that's why Fallout was not on
right.
mine. That would, if Fallout wasn't announced, I think that would be my number 1.
So those are our lists for now. If you have licenses that you think should be made into games, tell us about it.
Or if you think there's a better idea for one license we talked about into a game, let us know. Because as you can see during the back and forth, we're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this video, it was just a snippet of our full-length podcast, which you can find on our YouTube channel every week. So please go ahead, like, and subscribe for more board game-related content coming at you in the future.
And don't forget to check out rollforcrit.com, where we actually sell a lot of the games we talked about, as well as post news and all our other videos. Until then, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is Roll for Crit.